Alrighty, welcome to episode 12 of the Sports Talk with Duey podcast. I have a loaded cast today. We got the Fish, we got Tone, we have the greatest Oakland Zoo president of all time, Austin Hoagie Boom, and we have the man who hit the shot, one of the biggest Pitt fans out there, Rich Ferris, the GOAT. So a lot has happened as a Pitt fan recently. It's been a roller coaster, to be honest. A lot of things going on. Memphis just beat UConn. Hurley lost his mind. But yeah, we're gonna start off with the football collapse. I'm pretty pissed off. Every day I wake up, I just want to slam my pillows against the wall. I mean, we're 7-0. The Fish travels to SMU. We get absolutely blown out. No one blinks an eye though, because we were kind of expected to lose that game. Then the next week, we just drop a total egg against a mid Virginia team, and after that, everyone starts freaking out. Then the next week, it gets worse. Have Clemson beat. Then we decided to let Cade Klubnik run for a 50-yard touchdown. Then this week was the worst out of all of them. We have a great drive to start the game. Holstein throws a red zone interception. We get blown out. Well, I don't even know what the score was. I stopped watching. It was like 37-9. Just an absolute disaster. I have a couple questions for you guys, honestly. What's your feelings about this collapse? Who's to blame? We'll start with those two.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of negative feelings, obviously, just a lot of frustration, especially starting off 7-0. Like, we were all riding really high, even after like the close game against Cal, some of those comebacks early in the season where we could have seen some of the red flags that maybe this team wasn't like 7-0 level, like amazing college football playoff level. Like, it was nice to sort of put those aside and be like, we're winning games. That's all that matters. Like, let's just keep winning games. Then, of course, the SMU game was just sort of like a huge buzzkill, but at least we still had a little bit of hope. Like, we were still near this the ACC. This was our first conference loss. We had a bounce back game against UVA. Then all of a sudden, but I will say, like, beginning of the UVA game, I was like, I'm kind of nervous about this. This is the type of game that Pitt football loses. Like, you look at Georgia Tech a couple of years ago. I want to bring back like Western Michigan 3 years ago. That was horrible. But like those sorts of games, like NC State was pretty good in 2020, BC in 2020. Like, those are just sort of the games that Pitt football finds ways to lose. And then from there, just the wheels fell off. Obviously, now Clemson's heartbreaking loss just ended the season. Like, at this point, it's not really like you just sort of throw these results out the window, honestly. I mean, it's terrible what happened in Louisville, but it's like you can't really put much stock into it, especially, Holstein is like basically Anthony Rendon with how much he gets injured. The offensive line is completely broken. I think those are the two biggest culprits right there. Like, I was with my buddy Trevor in Dallas, and during the game, he was like, yeah, like Eli Holstein, he's not playing well at all, right? But you can't really have much confidence in your throws. You can't step into your throws if you think you're going to get every play because your O-line isn't doing super well. So I think that's the big thing is, like, you got guys, I think it was Branson Taylor who went out. He's our best lineman. He's out for the season with an injury. Lyndon Cooper was our center forever, and he got hurt in the Clemson game. Like, you can't expect much from your offense when your O-line just gets decimated. And I still have faith in Eli Holstein personally. Like, he's only a freshman. He can bounce back next year. But the things that we saw, even in the games where he was slightly healthy down the stretch, were not encouraging. We need to hit the portal hard on the offensive line if we want to be successful next season.
Fish, I disagree with you, but not just to disagree with you. Like, I believe that the collapse, Cade Bell, ever since SMU broke him. Since then, he has shown no ability to adjust. Pat Narduzzi, I don't know what the hell you're doing. Get your offense set up. You should not be taking 3 consecutive pre-snap penalties on 2 separate occasions against Clemson. That lost us the game. He called a timeout after Derek Davis, Superman, jumped into the end zone. How much can you ask for the defense? The defense has been playing their ass off all year, and then Cade Bell goes out there and lays an egg. And then we have God's greatest gift of football, Caleb Junko, go out there and shank a punt. Elite leg speed. They kept him because of elite leg speed. My grandmother could go out there and punt it farther than Junko. I mean, how many
Ring Guy Award semifinalist, Rich.
I don't care. How many times has he given the other offense the ball on our side of the 50-yard line? It's absolutely asinine. There's got to be a better punter out there.
To be fair, Rich, I will say last year, Caleb Junko is not the same as this year's Caleb Junko. He has been able to flip the field for us in a lot of different games. Now, however, That
That's a low
SMU
bar.
game
That's a
was
really low bar.
horrible. That was one of the worst punting performances I think I've seen in my life. Go has gotten is there's a lot of things wrong with this Pitt team, but I gotta say punting was an issue last year, or the 3-9 team where you're like you could win. That's probably worth the game or two if you could just flip the field effectively. And this time around, it's been frustrating at points, but we're fine. You guys know you're gonna get that kind of BS from me, but like. I think it comes down to you lose 2 O-line starters. I think that's the key here. You have a freshman quarterback, and if he doesn't have guys in front of him protecting him, suddenly he's getting hit all the time. You're right. I mean, the Fish is exactly right. He's not going to be able to step into his throws and hit the targets like he wants to. Also, this wasn't brought up, but our receiver, we've had some receiving issues in the last couple of weeks. Lots of drops. And I'm not sure if that's, especially versus Louisville this past weekend, I'm not sure if that is, just playing younger guys or whatever, but there's some, Yarnell has been playing great when we've asked him to. He's played about as good as you could ask. And he's getting the ball where it needs to go. And it's bouncing off these guys' hands. And it's just super frustrating. It reminds you a lot of last year when you had the quarterback carousel. And whenever you felt like one quarterback was finally figuring it out, boom, something else happens. Offensive lineman goes down, receiver drops a big pass. And so, 4 games skid. We feel like we're back at last year. We got to remember, this team won 7 games in a row. This team brought in some offensive firepower and recruited well. And this is the portal era where anything can happen. So I think especially looking into this offseason, there was that report out today of Cade Bell potentially getting talked to by like Oklahoma or something. You want to keep him. You absolutely want to keep this guy. He was averaging 44 points a game, through 8 games. This is a guy you need to keep, and you need to let him try to build a rapport here, purely because why would you let a guy go who brings in your 2 biggest offensive contributors this season? Why would you let him walk after 1 year, reinstall a new offense, and move forward? It's been rough, but the Cade Bell experiment needs to continue.
I agree with the boom one. You also got to think, I'm sure he's at a bit of a learning curve because he's from Western Carolina. And again, know that I'm not knocking the talent of those guys because those are still pretty damn good football players. But whatever conference Western Carolina is in, I don't even know, to playing people
SoCon, I think.
whatever. Going from the SoCon to playing teams like Miami, Clemson, SMU, Louisville, Duke, Georgia Tech. Like that's a big jump. I'm still adjust over the offseason, but it's just I agree with the boom. I don't think we can can him for 1 year, since this will be the 3rd Pat Narduzzi offensive coordinator over 5 years.
It's just not realistic. It's not based in reality. Sorry, Duey.
You're good. You need to set the tone right now.
Yeah, so I just think, I'm with Rich and the boom here. I think like continuity is somewhat important, and I think we can all agree that Cade Bell has still been an upgrade over Frank Signetti. As so far we've seen,
Not even close.
Yeah. So I think, the flashes are there. I mean, these past few weeks have been very problematic, but I think, we should give him another year. He just needs to, I think, step back and take time to kind of figure out where it went wrong. And like you guys said, a lot of the issue is the personnel, like the offensive line. I don't know what happened to Holstein. I think the first 5 games, he threw 15 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And in all the games since, he's thrown 2.
Okay.
So I don't know what happened. But
it's the protection. It is. Cal and UNC figured out a way to get to him a bit more often than the previous opponents had. And then from that point forward, obviously you have the defense play out of their mind versus Syracuse on that Thursday night game. But everyone, you can see it in the comments on Twitter. Like people are talking and they go like, wow, like, Cal figured us out. And from that point forward, the offense hasn't looked quite the same. And I really do think it comes down to the protection and how the coverages that Eli's playing have responded to him.
Yeah, and I mean, going back to the conversation about getting rid of Cade Bell, if you do that, if you lose him, then you basically lose Eli and Desmond Reed, or you at least have a lot more of a high probability of losing them than you would if you keep him around, right? Especially he's a year 1 coordinator, right? Look at how long it took for Mark Whipple and Kenny Pickett to get it completely figured out. And I think it's really promising that we started the season with 7 wins. Obviously, this is completely unacceptable. The fact that we've lost 4 straight should never have gone this way. And I think that there's something needs to happen. Something needs to change so that this doesn't happen again. But I don't think the answer is firing him right now. Like that, especially in year 1. Like it just shouldn't happen. I know, Dewey, you have a very different viewpoint, but it just doesn't make any sense right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think coaching does deserve a lot of the blame right now. I think we could easily be we're 7-4 right now. I think we could easily be 9-2 right now.
So,
I think the Louisville game and the SMU games are losses, like complete blowouts. Like those are going to be losses. But Clemson and Virginia were very winnable games that did come down to coaching, and for the Virginia game, the refs to an extent.
But
yeah,
don't
it's
even get
like
me started.
You're exactly right, Tone. It comes down to coaching. And that's what's so frustrating. That's why people were, in comments today going like, should we get rid of Cade Bell if he wants to walk to Oklahoma, let him walk. But there's a point there. And the point is that, as you said, 2 of the 4 losses in a row have been on the coaching staff more so than the player personnel. And again, Rich said it earlier, you cannot have 2 separate instances in a single game of multiple pre-snap penalties. That is coaching. That is discipline. That is everything that you install and practice during the week. That's everything you drill through from, spring ball onward. That cannot happen. And especially not on the goal line. And then you have that, BS timeout Narduzzi calls. Okay, fine. But at least find your way in the end zone after that. Don't hurt yourself. And then UVA, you're playing in a close game. The play calling needs to be better to give your guys a chance to win. You have to push the ball down the field. And instead they're screwing around in midfield. And the most frustrating part about the Cade Bell offense is that if they go 3 and out, it is really quick. It is, 40 seconds of game time. It's really quick. And, you don't win a lot of games when you lose time of possession in the way that game ended up being. And it's got to change in some ways. And so, but I think that comes down to personnel, and the key to getting the personnel you want is having continuity in the coaching staff.
So I do. I mean, I'm obviously probably one of the biggest Cade Bell haters out there. I'm definitely an old school football fan, but I do understand what all you guys are saying. Like, we probably shouldn't get rid of an offensive coordinator after 1 year. I'm not saying firing, but if he does leave, I wouldn't be that upset, but it would definitely hurt us because I'm a huge Mark Whipple fan. I feel like it was the first year at Whipple, it was definitely a struggle. I mean, Kenny was terrible, and we only scored like 19 points a game in 2019, but then 2021, that team was fantastic. But, I mean, it's just so frustrating. His offense completely stinks. I'm sorry. Literally, it's so boring. It's supposed to be this, like, innovative offense, but it literally sucks. We don't change anything up. It's Holstein or Yarnell's in the shotgun. Reed's next to him. You have Bartholomew out of bounds for some reason. Put him in the freaking tight end spot. We have 3 other receivers. Nothing changed. You can't just run the same formation every play. Holstein got to go under center sometimes. I think it's so predictable. California totally ruined our season. They figured us out. We would have lost to Syracuse if it wasn't for McCord throwing like 10 interceptions. So it's unacceptable. I thought this was a 7-5 team to start the season, but no, you can't do this after starting 7-0. And I feel like the reason why Cade Bell's to blame, but when Branson Taylor went out at left tackle, that's when the season went completely downhill. And it's honestly just getting worse and worse. I mean, we literally lose our best recruit we've had in a couple years, Elijah Dotson. This guy's a stud player, and Michigan outbids us, and we can't compete with Michigan. It's just, I don't know. I'm just starting to doubt the future. I love Pat Narduzzi, but I just don't even know anymore. This has been terrible, and I feel like we should beat Boston College, but I mean, this is completely embarrassing. Starting 7-0. We should have beat Virginia and Clemson, and we're going to finish like 7-6 or 8-5, whatever. It's still just terrible.
So hold on, though. If you go back, I want you to go back 2 years to the 2022 season. We were 7-4 with Keaton Slow as a quarterback. We had one more game versus Miami, and then we went to the Sun Bowl and played UCLA. So that was a frustrating year, especially at the quarterback position with Slovis. And that was first year of Signetti too. So, offense wasn't the best at times. But if you pull this out, I mean, there's still a chance for 9 wins here. You're going to end up in a B tier bowl game, but that presents a winnable opportunity. So what do we want to see, I guess, from this team in these last 2 opportunities of the season? What needs to happen for there to be a positive way to end this year?
I want to see adjustments.
Yeah, I want to see offensive creativity. One of the whole reason we brought Cade Bell in is because he ran these exotic packages and had really creative play calling. And that was his bread and butter. And we saw it in week 1 against Youngstown State?
Kent State, but it doesn't matter. They're all the same.
Directional Montana doesn't matter. If you're running these games, these plays against teams you can beat, if you're going to run them all season.
Yeah, I think
I want to see
SMU
us
and
have
Cal just broke us.
Go ahead, Tony.
That's all I was gonna say. I think like Duey was saying, or you guys were saying, SMU and Cal just broke the system, and I think honestly maybe it did damage to his confidence, so that he's not running those packages anymore.
Yeah, I personally just want to see hope from the team and some kind of energy and excitement, because that was just completely non-existent in Louisville. It's obviously Clemson was a very emotional game, very draining. As I was walking out of after the last play, I see Gavin Bartholomew around the goal line take off his helmet and just slam it on the ground. I feel horrible for him. He's been misused his entire Pitt career, and for it to end at home like that, that's just such a heartbreaking game. But it's after that, I feel the entire energy of the team was just taken out of us. Obviously things were deteriorating, but that was definitely the breaking point at this point. It's and it's especially evident by the fact how much we lost to Louisville by. I don't want that to be how the season goes out. Obviously the team's broken, hurting, injured, everything is going wrong. We need to find some kind of hope and some kind of energy to at least go out on a high note in the season, win one of these last 2 games.
Yeah, I do agree with what Boom said. 2022 was a very disappointing season, I guess, but that team left us with some hope to end the season, beating a really good UCLA team in the Sun Bowl. But, that Pitt team, they started off really slow and they really came on, so I guess all we can hope is to win the last 2 games and just end the season on a positive note. I mean, we only won 3 games last year. I know the Boom said our over and under was 4.5, so
Is 4.5 fine enough? I don't remember.
It's fun.
Doesn't matter because we beat it.
We did. So let's. I think we got a really good discussion there. Let's flip the page to basketball. We're gonna go from present to past. So yeah, Friday on my birthday, Pitt. Really good win against LSU. I wouldn't say LSU is a tournament team, but, they beat Kansas State by double digits. They beat UCF yesterday. They're a competitive team, really good transfers. I mean, we kind of controlled that game the whole time. They did creep up on us at halftime, but we really pulled away in the second half. We got in some foul trouble first half. We went by double digits. Then yesterday, it was completely heartbreaking. We're up by 14 first half. Everything was going well. And Damian Dunn, who just had a really tough weekend. He barely played on Friday because of foul trouble. And yesterday, I mean, he dislocated his thumb, sprained his ankle on the same play. I mean, I feel like if we have Damian Dunn, we win that game. But the second half, we just couldn't defend. It was because of the officiating, honestly. We just didn't know how to defend Tonje with that officiating. It was just a terrible loss. Obviously, Wisconsin's a great team. I think they're showing them that they might be one of the best teams in the Big Ten. It's not a bad loss. That's a good team. I just think it's such a missed opportunity. Last year, our hearts were broken because we didn't grab enough quality wins, and the ACC looks terrible this year. So, we just gotta win these games so we don't run the same issue last year. I mean, we need to literally leave no doubt because Pitt's been doubted. I don't want to be snubbed again. We missed out on Blake Hinson and Bub Carrington not playing the tournament last year. I don't want to risk that again. So I guess we can go around just, was this the loss? Is this, give some bad vibes for the rest of this season? I know obviously Damian Dunn, just came out a couple hours ago. He's going to be out around 6 weeks with a dislocated thumb and a sprained ankle. So yeah, what's this loss mean for Pitt? I know I'm crazy. I know it's at the end of our season. I had to calm myself down, but is this loss bad? And yeah, what's your just thoughts about the whole situation?
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely not by any stretch of the imagination a bad loss. Like, this is a top 25 team in Wisconsin who's probably going to be like a 4 or 5 seed come the NCAA tournament. And the fact that we had such a big lead and only lost by 6, like, I think that's not the end of the world. That being said, losing a 14-point lead is just not acceptable. I know the 14-point lead was very early on in the game, but even so, like, you have that much of a lead, you have to hang on to it. We just collapsed at the end of the game. That's the reality of it. And I think honestly, the more concerned thing the thing I'm most concerned about big picture throughout the season is the Damian Dunn injury. Now, I will say, I think Amsel Delilich played well enough today, which gave me confidence that he'll be a suitable replacement for him offensively moving forward. Or sorry, if I said today, I meant yesterday. He'll be a suitable replacement for Dunn moving forward, but it is something to be concerned about where like one of your top scorers and starters is out for 6 weeks. I mean, obviously there'll be finals in between, so there won't be too many games. He'll come back around conference play, but the question will be like, is he going to be able to come back up to speed or whatever? And honestly, the thing that I'm also most worried about, a big reason why we couldn't hold that lead last night is because Cam Corrin was in foul trouble, and we don't have a suitable backup center. We had to play small, and Kanye could just get really like far into the paint and draw all these fouls because we didn't have that physical presence down low. And Corrin, I think Cam's been great this year. He's been a lot better than I expected him to be, quite honestly. Like, first couple games, I was nervous. Like, he's not showing much aggression offensively. Like, he has huge mismatches against these smaller schools with smaller players. How's he going to fare against these power conference teams? I mean, the LSU game and the Wisconsin game, he's passed those tests with flying colors, but the reality is we don't have the depth there. If Jorge is going to be our backup center, I'm not super confident about our defense down low moving forward this year, especially if Cam gets in foul trouble more. So we need to see Papa Conte get it back up to speed really quickly. That's going to be really crucial for how far this team will go. As far as how I think this reflects on the outlook of the season, I'm a lot more confident than I was at the beginning of the season. Losing Blake and Bub, I was nervous we were going to take a step back. But the fact that we fought in this game and played a very good team close shows me that I do think that we are a tournament caliber team again this year. We just have to get these wins against Ohio State and Mississippi State, like you said, Dewey, when we have these opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, Dunn hurts. I mean, there's no sugarcoating that. Yesterday, we win if he plays. And John Tonji, who is this guy? I know he started at Colorado State, but like,
yeah, Rich, your uncle works there. You should know this guy.
He has to watch Joel Embiid game film. He has to.
Yeah.
He has to. I was expecting a little management second half from him. I'm sure you got of him just being a little crybaby. And they called that foul on Jorge or Guillermo. I still can't tell the difference between the two. That's a whole conversation in itself. And then we were scared to play defense. To everybody else's credit, the ACC, I think, is being weighed down by Cal, SMU, and Stanford. So you don't really have many, again, like discounting Wake and Miami and other middle of the pack teams in the ACC. You don't have very many ACC games to rack up quality wins. And that's what hurt us last year. Like, we couldn't beat North Carolina. We beat Duke at Duke. I thought that win would have carried us much longer than it actually did. I don't know. Last year, the team had the pieces. This year, I think it's better that Ish, Zach, and Lowe have already played 1 year with each other, because those are the 3 glue guys. Omgol, I don't know how to say his name. Sorry if I mispronounced it. I think he's going to take some time. I think he's raw. I think he's really good. This is Division I basketball, so I think he's also at a bit of a learning curve. To me, I don't know. I'm not a basketball coach, but to me, it looked like he played pretty good defense yesterday. So that should have negated some of the doubt that people had. Oh, he can't defend Power 5 guards and stuff like that. But I don't know. Yeah, yesterday's loss was just deflating. After being a Pitt fan for 23 years of my life, it's just like, I don't know, man. I want to see us turn that corner, and I've been saying we're going to turn the corner for like 3 or 4 years now. 2020, we had just beaten Duke at home. We were looking promising, and then we lose to Ishmael Massoud led and I was yelling at the TV. 2021, that was 2021. We were dog crap. 2022, that was our awesome tournament year. 2023, everybody knows we should have made it. But 2024, I mean, you got to go out and prove a point. You got to go out and prove that you deserve to be one of those 45 at-large bids.
Yeah, I mean, you guys pretty much hit it, I think, on the head there. But here's the thing: this team's 6-1, and of course, record at this point in this season really doesn't mean anything. Look, the 6 wins before that were all by 15 plus points. You lose, a close game versus, number 19, that a team who has beat Arizona, and of course, Arizona is not a team people are looking at as maybe as elite, as they have been in past years, but that's still a very respectable team over there. And certainly, going to be a resume building win for them. So, I mean, Wisconsin, it's a team that's going to have, that's going, in all likelihood, going to be in the tournament and probably going to have a favorable seed. And to play against a caliber team like that is not something we've really seen from Pitt at this point in the season for years. It hasn't been that way. I mean, 2022, the year we made the tournament, our first 2 months of the season were awful. We caught fire in January and February to put us in the dance, just barely in the first 4. But and then last year was a similar deal. We have struggled through the non-conference portion of the schedule, whether for one thing or another, whether we lose a bad game or we just don't take advantage of the opportunities that are in front of us. And the good news is this time around is that there are opportunities in front of us that are winnable, and that also hopefully shouldn't hurt us too much if we drop them. And of course, we said that last year with Mizzou, and that went the complete opposite direction. You don't lose that game, you're in the tournament for sure, I think. But it's like, you got to take advantage. You got Ohio State on Friday on the road in Columbus. This is a big time, outside of WVU, I can't, and like these, challenge games, I can't think of the last time, I've seen Pitt in like a home and home environment of a road game like this. So it's really exciting to see this just happening, especially somewhere so close. I know I'm sure you'll get some Pitt fans in Columbus for this one, but point is, it's gonna be a hostile environment. Everybody's there for the game. Ohio State, Michigan the next day. So this is a big test, especially when you consider that, you're playing at the Dean Dome, you're playing in Cameron. The sooner you get your feet underneath you in a hostile environment, especially for guys like Brandon Cummings, and Amzal, getting used to, Division I sports and college environments, that's going to be big. It matters. And on that note, like, Dunn being out is awful. It sucks. Not only is he a guy that, was giving us, 11 points a game. This is a guy who's, was what, 6th, 7th year senior. This guy has been around the block, played at Temple, played at Houston. He has been around, and he is, I'd be shocked to find out if he wasn't a leader in that locker room. He has, it's just some knowledge that I hope he can pass on to, these guys here, to get them ready for big tests like this. And so it sucks to not have him on the floor to be guiding, J-Lo and through these kinds of games coming up, because they're tricky. But I will say this gives a great opportunity for a guy like Amzal to step out, show us the raw talent that they saw in Europe. Just take advantage. He's a 21-year-old freshman. Go, show us. Prove you have that age. You have that age advantage. The size he has is great for the scheme Capel likes to run. We put out one of the tallest lineups I think I've seen in forever the other night. I think at one point during the night we had Guillermo, Amzal, and I think the shortest guy on the court was J-Lo, and he's what, 6'4", 6'3". That was a really tall lineup. So I love what having Delich in the lineup does. His shooting has looked great so far. He hasn't gotten enough minutes for me to really, really understand more of where he should be going forward. But I'm super excited to see him. Also, I want to shout out Brandon Cummings. Biba has looked fantastic to start the year. He does not look like a freshman. The way he shoots, it's confident. He looks just like his brother. When Nelly shot the ball, he was confident in that shot. plays hard. I love what I've seen from him so far, and I love that we don't have to rely on him right now with this lineup. So this is a good position to be in. You have some young contributors here who are hopefully going to be around for a while. Capel has done a much better job of retaining talent these past couple of years. So you have starting lineup that's averaging double figures, every player above 10 points a game. And you have some guys off the bench who look really promising right now. This team is the most balanced team of the Capel era to this point, and I don't think it's particularly close. So take advantage. They have the mantra of the season, leave no doubt. They can't afford not to take that to the full extent. So love to see that, and I can't wait to go to some more games. They need to take care of business. They can't get to January and February and rely on the ACC. You can't trust the committee's perception of your conference to get in, and so Capel's scheduled harder. He needs to put the money where your mouth is and go out there, play that game, win it.
Yeah, so I'm totally with you there. I think big picture, going into this 4-game stretch here, LSU, whoever we played, so that ended up being Wisconsin, Ohio State, Mississippi State, we needed to win 2 at least. And so my vision is like, as long as we win one of these next 2 games, we'll be all right.
Mm-hmm.
Especially without Damian Dunn, unfortunately he's injured now. I just want to say, like, what really stood out to me against Wisconsin was how good Jalen Lowe was. Like, he almost he elevated this team to the point that we almost won the game. And if it weren't for the problem was our bigs being in foul trouble, and then we had to play small. And then there was, as a result, like, Tonje just took over. And I will say, like, as a Sixers fan, like, I've watched Embiid, but I understand, like, the other perspective. Like, some of the calls that he was getting was just so, like, egregious and frustrating. Like, they should not have been called. It was just extremely frustrating to watch that happen and him get all those calls. I think the refs definitely played a role. I'd hate to keep bringing up the refs, but, like, they were getting some calls that we weren't. I think that played a role. I'm not saying it was the deciding factor, but it definitely played a role. But yeah, Jalen Lowe looks amazing. I mean, he's the leader of this team, and he's proving it. Ish Leggette's going to do his thing. I would like to see Zach be a bit better shooting-wise and scoring-wise. Like, obviously, defensively, he's amazing. But I just would like to see him be a bit better scoring off the bench. And he had 1 or 2 good games scoring, but did not do enough yesterday to allow us to win the game offensively. Amsal as well. I think one of the big knocks on him so far is his defense. But overall, I think he held up fairly well yesterday defensively. So I like what I'm seeing from him going forward. He was able to shoot the basketball fairly well as well. So I like what I'm seeing from him, and I think he's going to develop hopefully enough going forward that it'll win us one of these next 2 games at least. And he'll be a threat going into conference play. So I'm not too worried right now, but if we drop both of these next 2 games, which are going to be tough games because they're both on the road against good basketball teams. So they're going to be very tough games, but unless we drop both of them, I'm not going to be super worried right now. What I will say, though, is that going into conference play, thinking about that, I just want to talk about that a little bit. If this team is not going to double by, I will be severely disappointed. I think this is easily a top 4 team in the ACC. We better be. And honestly, like, is winning the conference out of the question?
No.
I think the answer is no. I think we can do it, but likely we're going to have to beat a very good team in either UNC or Duke or both en route to a conference championship. So we'll see how that plays out, but I think that's also another way we can get into the tournament. So, yeah.
I just wanted to add one thing. We're all sitting here complaining because we should have beat Wisconsin, this, that, what are the other refs, blah, blah. We're 6-1.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the bottom. Like, again, I'm still not happy we lost yesterday. There's still a game you need to win, but you're 6-1. You have seen very promising things from your team without arguably one of its best players against the number 15 team in the country. And you were up on them at one point by 14. 8 times out of 10, I like to think we can hold on to that 14-point.
To your point, Rich, we're ranked 25th in the coaches poll now. Like,
yeah, exactly.
This is a lot better than I would have expected coming out of the season to start.
27th in the AP poll. Like, I think it's only going up. Again, you have to not lose both of the next 2 games. At minimum, you have to win 1 out of 2.
Yeah, well, this is uncharted territory for the Capel era. It really is. There's not been a season in his now 7 years at Pitt. This is 7th season, where out of the gate they're receiving like some national looks. It's always been in the middle of conference play after they string together maybe a decent end to the non-conference schedule, and then win a few games early in the ACC or in the middle of it. Like, again, the year we went to the tournament, we were ranked 25th, and we were there for 1 week, I think. I would say
they rigged the rims.
Yep. Yeah. Don't remind me of that Notre Dame.
Remind me about that game.
That was a heartbreaker for sure. But here's the thing: this team is different. This is, again, as I said earlier, this is the most balanced team we've seen under Jeff Capel. The offense looks to they move the ball in a way that is much different compared to what we've seen from any Capel team to this point. There's not really a focal person along the perimeter that they're trying to shuttle the ball to. They're not trying to get it to Champagny to drive in for points. They're not trying to pass it to Blake, who can shoot. They're not trying to get it to John Hughley under the rim in 2021, or die trying. Like, this is the way they've moved the ball. This is probably the best guard group in the ACC, especially if Dunn is there. And that's not a strong take. This is easily top 2. This is a very, very competitive team that's going to win a big game at some point. You'd rather it be sooner than later. Dewey, I know you were talking about it yesterday. You only have so many opportunities. Sure, we've got 2 big ones. Yes, we scheduled differently this year. You got 2 big ones coming up, but you're going to have some questions asked about what's left to add to the resume if you get through these next 2 games without, convincing, some more people about your team. Perception matters in college basketball, but you play 31 games. You have to show that on the floor. This isn't college football where you confront 3 losses on an SEC schedule. You have 31 games to be, in the conversation. And again, I think our magic number this year with the schedule we play is probably about 24, 23 wins, somewhere around there. Probably get you in. So go ahead, Rich.
I was saying I think single-digit regular season losses gets you in.
Yeah, there's a good chance.
Yeah.
I don't think you can lose double-digit games against the trash ACC and get in.
We were 21-10 last year, and we narrowly missed out. So put that into perspective.
And again, like, if you have single-digit losses, or even if you have 10 or 11 losses, a win against a team like Ohio State on the road at Ohio State will go a long way. Yeah, for me, it's just a matter of when is this program going to push the needle? When are they going to turn that corner? I've been waiting them to turn for the past 3 or 4 years now.
Yeah.
And you have a great opportunity in the next 10 calendar days to go out and do that.
Yes. And yeah, I think for ACC, we won 12 games last year. If the ACC is as weak as we were all thinking, I'll say it. I think we should win 14 plus. Like, if this conference is not that good, we should not be losing that many games. I think if we lose, I think we should beat UNC. We play UNC twice. I hope we would win one of those games if we want to be serious about competing. Probably we'll drop the 1 to Duke. Might have a few more in there, but 14 wins. I think we can do it. Or more.
Yeah. I mean, you guys nailed it on the head. For me, you got to make a statement early in the season. That's winning games that are ranked. That's what most of the national voters, fans are paying attention to, those ranked opportunities. I thought yesterday was a great way to, build that national picture and put it into their minds that we're legit and make a statement. In 2022, we made a statement by beating North Carolina and Virginia in back-to-back games, and people are like, oh, wow, Pitt had 2 ranked wins and that stretch, like, they're on your mind. It does help that from last year, a lot of people did think we deserved to make it. So coming this year, we did build a pretty good picture in people's heads. It does help, we are I think we're 17th in KenPom now, which is really good. So I think it helps that, we started the season with a pretty good, picture and reputation in these people's heads. people's heads, that does help because I feel like a lot of teams, they have a good people have a good view of teams to start the season. That does get you advantage across the season, which we do have this year. But I really want to see us make a statement in being Ohio State and Mississippi State. I think we're capable of it. Ohio State is a really good team. They are missing their center Aaron Bradshaw because there's been reports he's been gambling or domestic violence. He's a really great center, transfer from Kentucky, but Ohio State has really good guards. So does Mississippi State. And I do want to say John Tonje. Yeah, it was super frustrating, but this guy's maybe been the best player in the whole country to start this season. I mean, he's had a 40-point game, a 30-point game. He's been extremely shocking. He's probably the favorite for the Big Ten Player of the Year. So, great discussion there. I do want to move on. I know we're going to start from the present, then we're going to move backwards. I mean, I want to talk about that West Virginia game.
Wait, can I say one more thing about Pitt basketball?
Yeah, sure, Rich.
When are we going to get that one big recruit? Like that, I think, is another thing that determines how soon this program can turn that corner. To lose out on a guy like Malik Thomas in your own backyard, that can never happen. And hopefully, to me, that's one of the things that we brought Alan Green here for, right? Because he knows how to do the NIL stuff. So how soon can we get that big recruit?
Yep, it would help. That could be a future discussion. We've done a pretty good of using our great coaching staff and developing transfers and some low-rate recruits like Dalen Lowe and Bob Carrington. It turned out there might be both lottery picks. So, yeah, I agree. It's frustrating to get Malik, but, we still have Amari Witherspoon. We've shown we could get transfers. So, but, yeah, I want to talk about this WVU game. The atmosphere is electric. I think all of us did a great job of welcoming the DeVries family to the backyard brawl. I definitely did a good job in my last one ever. The mom was saying that I have special needs, and she also was saying I was extremely obnoxious. And Tucker DeVries' girlfriend kept telling me to shut up. So it felt amazing welcoming that embarrassing, lousy family to the brawl. Yeah, what was your guys' thoughts? We don't have to talk about the game. We kicked their what. What did you guys think of? There's been a lot of hate in the zoo. All of us are gone, basically. No, we are. So what was your opinion on the total atmosphere? And if you guys have any stories to tell of the atmosphere, go ahead. But what did you guys think of the atmosphere? I know four of us were in the zoo and Rich was with his family.
Yeah, I mean, it was incredible. It was like, obviously I moved on now. I'm in Boston, not a student anymore. But it was nice to be back one last time. You know what I mean? And I grew up in my living room jumping in front of the TV in an Oakland Zoo shirt as a kid in 2009, 2010. The years were really good. It was like my dream come true to be in the zoo every single game. And I'm super grateful that I was able to live that out. I always say this, but it's just that's something that I could never sort of be replaced. You know what I mean? I feel like me and Duey kind of have that shared experience now. And it was great because I feel like I've met so many of my closest friends at Pitt through the zoo. And I feel like that's how it should have been. You know what I mean? Like, as someone who did grow up that way. So obviously, even though I moved on, it was really cool to come back for one more game and just, be a student again to an extent, and have that energy. And it was, obviously, I think on the cake that we blew them out of the water. It wasn't even close. And it was against our biggest rival. So I think that's a great, I know, Dewey, you said you retired from the zoo or whatever, but that's a good game to go out on as last one ever there. And I will definitely be back in the Pete, but being in the zoo and meeting all the great people that I did through that experience is just, I couldn't be more grateful. And it's stuff that I'll remember forever.
I mean, I was all the way up in the nosebleeds because I'm poor now because I'm not in college anymore. I'm on my own dime. Man, they look great from up there. There's this guy. He's a West Virginia fan. Guillermo got clocked in the jaw, and he had to come out for however many games or however many minutes because they had to stitch up. And Guillermo's on the floor, you could see the blood on the floor from where we were. And this West Virginia fan with his two little kids, they couldn't have been more than 2 and 4 years old. he's the softest center in the league, blah, blah, blah. You couldn't help but laugh.
And then he came back in.
And then he came back in, and
He said he was ready to kill.
yeah,
Let me see what his stat line. What was his final stat line? I'm not sure,
He
He
played.
posted-
He played great.
but he played well.
He had a double-double, right?
double that game.
I think he did. Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun to let them out of the building. Although
Sure.
I will say I think the game last year at their place was more fun.
For
Yeah,
sure.
that was awesome.
And everybody,
Lake Hinson.
we didn't even step on the bus yet. They were already calling us names.
Yep. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
That was awesome.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah. 10-10.
that was a great
10-10 and
experience.
1.
Both these games were nuts. Just to end the streak that they had going on was big. And I mean, the fact is like it was so frustrating for the longest time because the Pitt basketball's worst years as a program were around the time West Virginia was so really good, and so to be able to rebuild and kind of get over that hump and beat your rival, always great. And it's really cool, especially to see. We're talking about the zoo. It was really cool to see the traditions revive and to be a part of that. I didn't grow up a Pitt fan. I wasn't even a college basketball fan, but I showed up at Pitt, and you guys. I mean, Fish talked about the community aspect of the zoo. That was a big thing for me, and then suddenly I find myself helping run it, and just an amazing opportunity. People, unless they go to games as a Pitt student, I don't think they'll ever fully truly understand just what it's like, not even from like the court perspective, but just the environment it creates among students and how it unifies the university community around something simple in a way that going to a football game doesn't. So it's great. I very much enjoyed it. I mean, that's how I met you guys, and now I'm doing a podcast 6 months out of graduation. But I mean, it was great. I mean, you guys talk about this stuff, and Duey, you talk about it like your retirement, which, again, people who don't go to basketball games and been in the zoo, they don't understand just the shit you pull with these situations and things like that. I mean, you're talking about the DeVries family, and people are like, "Why are you talking to their mom?" And people don't understand that they're right next to you, and like. That they're talking as well, and that like it's this is a very unique environment in college basketball. I think when Pitt basketball at its best, so is the zoo, and there's nothing that can come close to it, truthfully, because there's a very small list of courts and home arenas that actually put the students in the way that Pitt has had it, and they did that on purpose. And 23 years into the Pete, it's been great. It's obviously paid off. Our home record is 309 and 79, and most of those 79.
Well, they stopped displaying the graphic after Stallings showed up.
Yeah, well, I say we had
There.
under 20 losses, I think, at home before Stallings arrived, and But I mean, hey, like just in general though, what a game to be at. That was a student attendance record, and it wasn't like the interest for Pitt basketball is at an all-time high. The problem is just with how things have gone. It was on Friday night. Like filling the GA crowd has been hard in recent years, especially since Dixon left. So the students have picked up the slack in ways that I think very few people anticipated if you were to go back 10 years, because for the longest time, it was the hardest ticket to get in Pittsburgh. There's stories of like pro players, like it's so hard for them to come to the Pete to watch Pitt basketball and to play like that, and that are like these big guys in Pittsburgh, that want to go see Pitt basketball play when they're elite. The students, they were only allotted 1,000 tickets to be there, sleeping overnight at the Pete. They already had a ticket to the game; they were just there, and so that kind of just pageantry of Pitt basketball, to be a part of reviving that after the pandemic, which it was already miraculous enough that the home environment had come back after Stallings era. It was even more miraculous that it comes back after the pandemic as well. And I think being a part of that is truthfully like an honor to support a school and university that I love that way, to be able to play a role in that. And I know Dustin, you especially understand that. But it's just been great. It was great to go back. And luckily I'm 22 years old, and I'm still looking to go to law school at some point. But like I'm not 40 and trying to go get in the zoo. So it was nice to be able to be in there with some friends, and Benny left in the zoo, but I made sure when I was there for that game, just have fun. It was great. That's the biggest thing, is you want people to go there, to go to games, have fun, care about this team, and then it makes it even better when you kick the tooth in of a team like that. So what, 24-point win? Those guys, we were doubling them up for most of the game. Perfect. Just beautiful, beautiful basketball. That building, that school, that program absolutely deserves it, and absolutely the student environment deserves that as well.
Yeah, so I guess a funny story on my end to start was that, like, the boom, you were mentioning how, like, Dewey was, like, first of all, I don't know why we didn't put Dewey on the end of the row more often during his time in the zoo, because when we were that, like, I was like, everyone was like, we scored a basket, everyone's like going crazy. We're up like 35-14. Everyone's like focused on the game and everything, and I just see Dewey like over here. He's going like, he's like on the West Virginia fans' case the entire time. Like, it just made me laugh because like Dewey was all over them.
Well, that's the thing, Tone, is that with the zoo the way it is, he's not the only guy doing it. You have there, for the people who've never been to the Pete, they have about 75 seats or so reserved by the NCAA behind the bench, and the zoo covers it on 3 sides. He's
Surrounded.
not the only person sitting there giving hell to the opposing fans. You guys remember when the Miami fans were there a couple years ago? That was ridiculous.
They were the worst. They were the
mom was-
worst.
That was
They were
really
the
fun.
worst. And thank goodness we won the game, because if we didn't, it would not have been good.
Miller. Jordan Miller's mom was on us
Yeah.
the whole.
He was
Dude,
so annoying.
As soon as the final buzzer left, I have never seen anybody leave a stadium that quick.
Yeah. And thank goodness we won, because
Isaiah Wong,
those first 38
college
minutes.
for 6 years to dribble the ball off his foot.
Those first 38 minutes were not fun.
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
You gotta respect it though, because the parents in every other arena, they'll be sitting like in like almost center court sometimes, and they're next to kind of like a more wine and cheese crowd, and then they come to Pittsburgh and they get sit right in the middle of the student section, and if it's a big game, I love how some of the parents rise to the occasion, match our energy, support their team the way we support ours. It's really cool. It allows them to be a fan in a more vocal way. I'm sure they'd love to be for their sons that are out there battling. So it's really cool to see. But also, God, I'd hate to be them. I would hate to be them sitting there with 1,000 of your closest Pitt undergrad students sitting right next to you. Ooh, brutal.
Rich, you gotta tell your Julie Boeheim story.
My God, Julie Boeheim. Miss Boeheim. And it's the most pleasant people I have ever had the pleasure of interacting with. We had just like whoops. Like it wasn't even a close. And at the very end, when they were shaking hands, I was like picking my nose right in front of Jim. And after Julie Boeheim was like looking at her, and like I look over at her and I just like, when you look at someone and you're like, no. She like motions me to come over here. I'm like, what? She goes, I hope your calling in life gets better than this. I was in shock. I didn't even know what I was like, what? Yeah, I hope your calling in life gets better than this. So I just said, okay, lady. And I just left. Like, that was just, I don't know. It's stuff like that. And I almost got some North Carolina parent almost ran down the stairs and punched me because I was yelling at the desk because they didn't call a foul. And then he started yelling at me. I was like, dude, I will bet my life savings you did not go to North Carolina. Like, I can guarantee that. And he's like, you can tell this dude's roided up in this tiny shirt just because he's like, oh, I'm better than everybody else because I weigh 400 pounds pure steroid muscle mass. Anyways, he rolls his arm sleeve up and flexes his bicep at me. I was like, cool, dude. I could look like that if I also did steroids. And he looked at me. He's like, "Are you talking to me?" I was like, "No, the other guy with a tomato red chest." That didn't make him happy. And then he was like, "Oh, look me up, I'm famous, look me up." I was like, "Buddy, first
Is that the
of all,
North Carolina?
yeah." I was like, "Buddy, first of all, nobody who's famous tells you to look them up. Second of all, I don't even know who you
Looks like
are.
Nettie.
Yeah,
So
you can't even
how
look him up.
can I look you up?" And then that dude, yeah, he was not fun for the rest of the game.
UNC fans
It's
were not fun in general last year.
yeah, well, I mean, hey, they're all from Cranberry, man. They don't even go there.
Yeah,
Oh,
They
that's
come
true.
out of the woodwork for one day a year, and they're the biggest Tar Heel fans ever. And then they're at the Steelers game.
It's the long drive that they have to make from Upper St. Clair and Mount Lebanon.
Exactly. Man, it's just that that's something I'll never understand. But I mean, say yeah, and the worst part about it, Rich, is that I guarantee you talk to people who go to most games. I guarantee you they have a story very similar to that, because just the environment that the zoo creates, it's hostile. It is not friendly to opposing fans, whether they're in the parent section, whether they're behind the bench, whether the opposing team and the manager sometimes will get into it with you. But it's all part of the game. It's all part of the game within the game. It's all part of that it's the zoo. I mean, you guys know all the old clips. You guys know the old history and stuff. The goal is to be in their head from the second they hit the floor. It's not their building. It's ours. They had the mantra for years, "This is our house," and the zoo wore that every game for so long, and unfortunately it went away. You got 40 people a night during the Stallings era, and then you had a pandemic. But I would say now you set a record versus you. Big game. Students were into it. Had some vulgar chants there that I was happy to not be responsible for during that game. And it's just so much fun to be a Pitt student there. It's one of those things where, like, I really wish that every student at Pitt, every student, I mean literally every student, goes to sit in the zoo or stand in the zoo and jump in the zoo for a game. It's awesome, and it's a part of campus. It's an institution of campus in a way that other similar sporting events are not. So happy to be a part of that legacy.
Yeah, I mean, I did decide it was gonna be my last game ever. Like Tony was saying, did start out by sitting next to the parent section, and I got in trouble like my first two games, so I did move to the middle to be in the central picture. But it was such an amazing ride. I definitely thought it was just weird sitting in there for the first two games of this season. Definitely wanted to end it trolling WVU for 40 minutes, and that's what I did. The girlfriend literally left with like 4 minutes left. They just couldn't take it anymore. I started the game in Seven Nation Army. I was just jumping and staring at them, like doing like 360s just to piss them off. And I was just barking at them the whole game. When they called a timeout, I did like the Jimmy Butler thing right in front of them, and they just could not handle it. It was amazing welcoming them. And I just hope, yeah, I posted a statement on Instagram. It just felt like it was it for me. And I just want to say, I wouldn't have been able to do it without you four guys and all our other friends. It was an absolute dream come true being a zoo leader. It was such an amazing experience. Like Boom said, we did a job, bringing it back. And yeah, it was just a perfect game to end on for me. So I did announce my retirement. One of the greatest zoo leaders of all time. So is the Boom, obviously. So I just hope, the zoo can keep going and take our momentum and keep it going. So yeah, if we reach an hour on this podcast, it's been amazing going over what's been happening in Pitt sports. So thank you guys so much for coming on. We'll be on here soon. There's a lot of stuff coming up. So as always, Hail to Pitt. Thank you guys so much for coming on.
thanks to do for having me.
Of course.
No problem,
Thank
Rich.
you, Duey.
Oh yeah,
Hail to Pitt. Hail to Pitt,
Thank you,
guys.
Duey.